Hello everyone. In this series of first step to NEET and IIT JEE physics, we'll start with first topic units and dimensions. Let's start with what is a quantity? Yeah. So what is quantity? Here quantity means size, or we can say amount, or vastness, or we can simply say magnitude. So let's see what is physical quantity. Physical quantity. Let's define physical quantity in physics, right? Here physical quantity is nothing but a quantity which can be measured. A quantity which can be measured can be called as here physical quantity, right? Can we take example for physical quantities? Example, length. We can measure length, so length is a physical quantity. Area is a physical quantity because area can be measured. Volume is a physical quantity because volume can be measured. Speed, force, mass, energy, etc. We can take as many quantities as we want as physical quantities, but the condition here is it must be measured. Physical quantities are organized into various ways in various systems. Various ways into various systems. What are the various systems? Like we have CGS, we have FPS, we have MKS and SI. But now the scientists of all the countries are following SI for all their research work. So more importantly, SI system is considered internationally, right? So let us see physical quantities which are organized in SI system. In SI, physical quantities are organized into three groups. How many groups? Into three groups. Let's see what are there. First one is fundamental quantities. What is first one? Fundamental quantities. Or we can say fundamental physical quantities. Second one is supplementary physical quantities. Supplementary physical quantities. And third one is derived physical quantities. What is third one? Derived physical quantities. So in SI system, physical quantities are organized into how many groups? Three groups. First one is fundamental quantities or fundamental physical quantities. Second one is supplementary quantities or supplementary physical quantities. And third one is derived quantities or derived physical quantities. Now let us try to know what is fundamental quantity. Okay, let's take first one, that is fundamental quantity. Fundamental quantities. Let's try to know what are these fundamental quantities, right? So here fundamental quantities are those quantities which are independent of each other. Here physical quantities which are independent of each other. and and cannot be expressed in terms of one another, in terms of one another. So two conditions are here to be called as fundamental quantities. First one, the quantities which are independent of each other. They must be independent of each other. And these quantities cannot be expressed in terms of one another. All such quantities are called as here what? Fundamental quantities, or these are also called as base quantities. Called as base, or these are also called as absolute quantities. Absolute quantities. Maybe fundamental you can call them, you can call them base or absolute quantities, right? So let us see what are those quantities. An international body named General Conference on Weights and Measures. What is that international body? General Conference on Weights and Measures. General Conference on Weights and Measures. So generally this is represented as CGPM. So an international body has chosen how many fundamental quantities? 7 fundamental quantities were chosen, right? Let's see what are those fundamental quantities. First one is length, second is mass, third is time, fourth is electric current, electric current, right? And fifth is temperature, or it is also called as thermodynamic temperature. Sixth is amount of substance. What is sixth? Amount of substance. And seventh is luminous intensity. What is seventh one? Luminous intensity. So these 7 are generally called as fundamental quantities or base quantities. Length, mass, time, electric current, temperature, amount of substance, and luminous intensity, right? Let's move to second one, that is supplementary physical quantities. Second one is supplementary quantities. These are also called as supplementary physical quantities. So what are these supplementary quantities? There are two supplementary physical quantities. There are two supplementary physical quantities. How many are there? Two. Let's see what are those. First one is plane angle. What is first one? Plane angle. And second one is solid angle. These two comes under what? Supplementary quantities. Fundamental quantities are 7. Length, mass, time, electric current, temperature, amount of substance, luminous intensity. When it comes to supplementary quantities, there are 2. First one is plane angle, second one is solid angle. Now let us see third one. What is third one? Third one is derived physical quantities or derived quantities. So what are derived quantities? Derived quantities are the quantities which are derived from fundamental quantities. The quantities derived from fundamental or supplementary quantities. We can derive this from fundamental or supplementary physical quantities are called derived quantities are called derived quantities. So what is the definition of derived quantities? These quantities must be derived from which quantities? Fundamental or supplementary physical quantities. If these are derived from fundamental or supplementary physical quantities, these quantities are called as what quantities? Derived quantities. Let's take some examples to understand derived quantities in a better way. Examples for derived quantities. Let's take area. So area is derived from fundamental quantity called length. We know area is nothing but length into breadth, right? Which is a derived quantity. Next we can take volume. This is also a derived quantity taken from fundamental quantity called length. And we can take another one is speed. It is nothing but distance by time. Distance is a fundamental quantity and even time is a fundamental quantity. We can consider force is also one of the derived quantity, and density, mass per unit volume, which is also a derived quantity, right? Density, mass is a fundamental quantity, again volume is a derived quantity which is obtained from length, which is a fundamental quantity. So many examples we have for what? Derived quantities. After understanding fundamental and derived quantities, we can say fundamental physical quantities are like alphabets in English language, and derived physical quantities are like words. Let's continue the topic in our next video. Thank you.